Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is. And it's time for our weekly track roundup with the best and the worst tracks of the week, along with some of the songs that I just thought were kind of meh. And yeah, so we're going to plow through these tracks. They're all listed down there in the description box, along with our Amazon Associates link. If you hit that link and you live in the US, anything you buy on Amazon after you click on it, we get kickback from it. Does not add to your overall price, supports the segment. Yeah, you're the best. All right, let's move on to these tracks. With the worst tracks of the week, of course, we rip off the Band-Aid here. We get to the worst tracks first. And in my opinion, the worst songs that I had the mispleasure, the displeasure, the non-pleasure, the no pleasure of hearing. Kicking it off with the new Major Lazer song, Run It Up. This new Major Lazer track is the collaboration between Major Lazer, PARTYNEXTDOOR, and Nicki Minaj that I never knew, I never wanted, and I never want to hear it again. It's another piece of whitewashed, boring, vanilla dance hall that just sort of seems to be dominating the charts right now, and I can't wait until this trend is over. Moving on from there, Missy Elliott with I'm Better featuring Lamb. Unfortunately, this track is not as good as I wanted it to be. And when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah. But the more I listened to it, I was like, this is actually a really rough track. And I can sort of see what Missy Elliott was trying to do on this song. And I have enjoyed some of her recent singles, that song, WTF, so much that it ended up on last year's favorite singles of the year list and the list the year before that, because I'm a moron. But this new single over here, she wanted to make one of these kind of whisper quiet, minimalist, quirky bangers with a catchy hook, some of which have been very iconic over the years, like, you know, that one Yin Yang Twins song where they're, beating the pussy up, or that Pharrell song with Snoop Dogg, Drop It Like It's Hot, or, even Bitch You Guessed It. These iconic hip-hop singles that they're so stripped back, they're so skeletal, and she tries to do the same thing over here, but the lyrics are subpar, they're not that memorable, the beat is kind of forgettable, Lamb's contribution to the song is ridiculous, so I don't know. If you're working with so few elements in a song, they've all got to be great. It can't just be the stripped back track and then it's amazing just because of that. You have to make sure everything that goes into that soup is high quality ingredient. Didn't end up being the case this time around, unfortunately. Moving on from there, we have the band Wire, awesome art rock, art punk, and post-punk band Wire with Short Elevated Period. This is a rough track. This sounds awful. I mean, Wire, ever since, I want to say like late 2000s, every recording the band comes out with is badly recorded, it's badly mixed, it's badly produced, it's muddy as hell, and this song for me is really kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. Why is it Wire cannot come through with a clear recording? Why is it every time they come out with a new record, it's muddy, it's flat, the production is terrible? It just baffles my mind, because it just makes their music so unlistenable. And I love Wire. I love their early recordings. I think they're a very creative band, and I think there's certainly potential in their newer material, but consistently the production just ruins it over and over and over. So I'm just saying, Wire, please, just like better mixing on the future stuff, better mixing on the upcoming stuff, because this is not what the fans deserve. This is not what the fans want. Moving on from there, we have Anohni, who has a new track out titled Paradise, which apparently is going to be on a new EP, which is a follow-up to her album that dropped last year, which was a pretty interesting art pop album. Very politically charged songs on there that I like quite a bit too. However, this new track over here is a weird, awkward, flat, and I don't know, very subpar in terms of writing, like trap ballad. There were elements of trap production to some of the beats on her last album, but now she just like goes all in on this new track, and it's just kind of like a boring trap instrumental with I don't know, just like a weak ballad thrown on top of it. Just do not get the appeal of this track, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that this is not sort of the trend of this new EP. These songs sort of sound like the barely finished demos of tracks that could have been on the last record, because that's certainly what this song sort of sounded like to me. Moving on from there, we have to give a mention to what is my least favorite track of the week, I guess. This new CocoRosie song, Smoke 'Em Out, featuring Anohni as well, making 2 appearances on the list, the worst section this week, unfortunately. CocoRosie, never been a big fan, and this song is pretty much an example as to why, because just this really awkward, bad rap music, art pop, that just sounds really awkward and is just has I don't know. You know, if I were to liken it to tasting something, it would be just like taking a big fat roasted turkey leg, cutting the meat off of it, and then throwing that into a blender with some apple juice and pretty much every sugary kid cereal that you could imagine, and just slurping that down. And that's what this feels like to me. It's just like a bunch of non-complementary tastes just all blended into a bowl of slop that is completely unappealing and unappetizing. But let's move on to the tracks that I thought were sort of meh this week, the songs I was kind of indifferent toward. We have this new Lupe Fiasco single, which is titled Tranquillo, or Tranquillo. And Lupe Fiasco joins up with Rick Ross and Big K.R.I.T on this one. It's kind of a vanilla track from Lupe, unfortunately. It's not one of his hard-hitting, more interesting tracks, more poignant tracks. These corny bars about him surrounding himself with nutrition. It's not really that interesting. There's not really that strong of a theme running throughout all the verses here, though I will say Rick Ross and Big K.R.I.T, they do a decent job when they do show up on this cut. The instrumental is really glitzy and glamorous. I'm not really that into it. You know, it's decent. There's nothing terrible about the song. I think Lupe fans will love it, of course, but I'm not really that into it, unfortunately. Moving on from there, we have Tim Darcy of the band Ought with the song Still Waking Up. Tim is trying his hand at being a crooner on this new track, and I imagine that'll probably be the case on so many of the cuts later in the deeper sort of bowels of this new record he has coming out. And I don't know, it's not bad. It doesn't have the herky-jerky quirkiness, the eclecticism that I liked so much about Ought's last record, that I like about their music in general. But it certainly seems Tim can hold his own as far as this songwriting style goes. I'm just hoping that the material outside of this track is a little more compelling. Moving on from there, Porter Ray, a rapper that I believe was brought to the Sub Pop label, has a new record coming out over there by Pallbearer Lazaro of Shabazz Palaces, who actually appears on this track. Not a bad cut. Mariam the Believer with the song Crust over here. Mariam the Believer of Wild Birds and Peace Drums fame. I also loved her debut full-length album, solo debut. And this new song over here, it has a lot of the elements that I love about her music, sort of the mysticism, the beautiful vocals, the kind of esoteric lyrics, but this track structurally is really a mess. Like, it has no momentum whatsoever. It just kind of jumps from one idea to the next with no fluidity or segues moving you from one passage to another. So it just kind of feels like really disorienting and like a bunch of spare pieces that aren't really put together. So I'm hoping that the other songs on this upcoming record are a little more cohesive, because while there were moments of this track that were really beautiful, there wasn't much to it that felt like it was, really stitched together all that seamlessly. Moving on from there, Riggins with 4 E's and Oddness, 4 E's J and Oddness, odd title, but unfortunately not a very odd track. Sort of a tame little beat and instrumental here from Karriem. Knowing what I know about his music, how sort of jazzy and left field and interesting his beats, his production tends to be, because he is a sort of multi-instrumentalist and a hip-hop instrumental producer. This track sort of seemed really, I don't know, really colorless for me. Not terrible, certainly had a lot of the elements that you would want in a beat from Karriem Riggins, but not really one of his more memorable pieces of production, unfortunately. We have Mastodon with Sultan's Curse, sounding a little dad rock on this new single over here, and, because... some of the cleanly sung vocals on this track sounded like something out of like a really bad 90s alternative rock Billboard hit or something. Was hoping for something a little harder from Mastodon, but it sort of seems like their past several records have kind of been defined by this desire to find this balance between, the sludge metal, the progressive metal of their older records with sort of a more accessible and tuneful and radio-friendly sound. Not really sure why. Radio is not really dictating the direction of rock as much as it used to be, but whatever. So this track, it's okay. I do like elements of it. I just think some of the cleans on the track are somewhat ridiculous. Pallbearer with the song Thorns. If you love your doom metal, if you love your sludge metal, if you love your stoner metal, do give this a shot. But as usual with Pallbearer, the vocals are lacking. They're so in the distance, they're so buried, and they don't bring that much to the table. And finally, we're going to kick this section off with Real Estate. Real Estate, this song is... definitely an improvement. I mean, Real Estate, their music has always been way too sleepy for me, way too disengaged for me, way too just wallpaper for me. But this track has a really interesting instrumental too. I love how bright and kind of easygoing and pretty the guitars sound all over the track. The bass is so smooth. The drums are crisp. And the groove that they play on this song has a really odd feel to it. And I love that a lot. But sort of like with that Pallbearer track, the vocals are lacking, don't bring that much to the table. And eventually the band doesn't really progress the song enough to the point where it stays engaging for the duration of the whole track, so it does kind of end up being forgettable before the song is even over. So, that's sort of the meh section. Let's move on to my favorite tracks of the week. Busting these out. Mount Eerie with the song Real Death, definitely the most powerful song I've heard all week. I don't really want to say too much about it because it's such a painful track to listen to, knowing recently what Phil has gone through with the passing of his wife. He pulls no punches on this track. Not only in that he describes in great detail the sorrow and anguish that he's been feeling and sort of his experiences, but also kind of bringing up this idea that death, when you're singing about death, real death, death that has affected you in a way personally, in a really immediate and a close way. It doesn't make you want to write a song. It doesn't make you want to be poetic. It doesn't make you want to create an album. It's not something to make a piece of art over. Even though that's in fact what he's doing, he's sort of making a comment on that whole process as well, because in a way, that's sort of what the fans are expecting at this point. That's what the fans are probably dying to hear about on this new album. Phil's music tends to be so personal, and of course fans are going to go into this record like, oh, what is he going to say about, what just happened to him? I'm curious about it. So I feel like in a way he's sort of commenting on that in an interesting way with this track. Moving on from there, Father John Misty with Pure Comedy. This song has been one of the more polarizing cuts of this entire week because of some of the politics of the song. Here's my take on that track. This new Father John Misty track is awesome. It's this piano ballad that is very socially aware, but has a dark sense of humor to it. It's very much in the same tone as that song Bored in the USA from his last album, but this song is not as funny, and mostly because the topic, the things mentioned in this song, the shit show that I think this past year really was, politically and socially, is so grim. It's a very grim image of not just what's been happening recently, but kind of just the human condition at large. I think Father John Misty put some very interesting, poignant phrases in the lyrics of this song, and I think the song progresses musically in a really nice way. A lot of good things about this track. It may be a little preachy to some people, but it doesn't read to me as him taking a really cliched political stance on anything, more just kind of being above the fray and just commenting on this orgy of fail that's been going on. Good fucking track. Moving on from there, the band Show Me the Body, the New York thrash, hardcore, punk, rap, experimental band has a new banger that dropped this week titled Trash. It is rough. It is abrasive. It's somewhat Death Grips inspired, I think, but they come to a different conclusion. Like, it doesn't sound quite like a ripoff or anything like that, but it is definitely doing a noise hop thing, I think, a little bit, with some strong rock elements mixed in there too. Me Not You, the song Relief. This was actually like an interesting piece of very melodic female-fronted indie pop, if you could even call it that. You know, it seems like there's a lot of elements to this thing. Certainly a bit of 90s nostalgia mixed in there, I think, is one of the most prominent pieces of the recipe. And these two tracks that Stereo Gun premiered are actually pretty catchy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this band drops this year. Pond, if you're a Pond fan, they are treating fans to a new album this year, and this new single is titled Sweep Me Off My Feet, one of the quirkier and more bright and, I don't know, somewhat poppy songs that I've heard from Pond. You know, I've never been a huge Pond fan, but this sort of seems like a new direction that they're going in over here. Seems like they're kind of riding on the coattails of, you know, what Tame Impala have been doing lately a little bit, but not so much that it's like, you know, a terrible track or anything like that or distracting. Seems like a decent single. Thundercat with the song Show You the Way featuring freaking Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald. You know, of course they do a bit of a throwback R&B thing, and, you know, it's definitely totally 70s, totally 80s. It's got those jazzy chord progressions in there too. It's somewhat tongue-in-cheek and corny, but I actually like the balladry of it a lot. And Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald actually kill it on their vocal features, so I'm actually pretty happy with the track. Moving on from there, Young Fathers with Only God Knows. Young Fathers killing it on this new single. These guys went from being this crazy lo-fi rap trio to really playing with every genre, throwing in everything but the kitchen sink, and now they're touching down on a little bit of gospel with this new track over here with some awesome background vocals from the Leith Congregational Choir, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. And it's actually a pretty beautiful track with some very bulky, punchy drums, very shouty, in-your-face lead vocals. They've kind of got that lo-fi thing going on still, like the vocals still seem a little rough around the edges. Some other elements of the production seem kind of rough, but the chorus, the choral group sounds beautiful. Some of their elements of the instrumental sound beautiful. So Young Fathers continuing to do a really interesting mix of textures in their songs, playing with sound in a really interesting way, writing songs that sort of piece together different genres in an interesting way too. Young Fathers really just kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different things that come together into a pretty cohesive and distinct sound. So I'm loving to hear them continue to mature. You know, keep it going, Young Fathers. You're doing great stuff. This band, who I'm not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce their name, they're an Icelandic black metal band. They have a new track out titled Hoff, which is rough and progressive and epic as hell. I love this track. This track is hard hitting. This track is exciting. It's blood pumping. It's cult as fuck. And I'm hoping to hear more from these guys soon. And Aristophanes, who is a rapper who you might have caught on Grimes' last album, has a new track out produced by Grimes, I believe, dropping an album this year too that's going to be stateside. And this track is a total banger. The track is titled Humans Become Machines, and it's colorful, it's off the wall, it's insane. It's everything that I liked about her feature off of Grimes' last album, but sort of, you know, put into a full-length track, and is very eccentric. Yeah, I'm just liking all these tracks. So there you go. Those are all the songs I'm recommending. Those are my least favorite tracks. Those are my meh tracks. Enjoy all those links down there in the description box. You guys are the best. Also hit up that Amazon link if you have not already. And thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Forever.